So Chris, when dealers are looking to cut spend, what are some of the mistakes that they make?
I would say cutting the things that actually are working well for them and they didn't know.
From the Aishin Broadcast Studio, it's the Executive Spotlight.
Welcome to the AutoSuccess Executive Spotlight. I'm your host, Brian Ankney. Today our guest is Chris Kerr from Clairvoy. Welcome, Chris.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're happy that you made the long trip up from Columbus.
Yeah, about an hour and 45 minutes, not too bad.
Yeah. Didn't need a hotel, not a flight, nothing.
Nope, all good.
Nice. Well, I'm excited to have you here. I want to get into some content.
Absolutely.
So tell me, dealers right now are under a little bit of pressure with, costs are going up, margins are shrinking. What are you really seeing right now between the dealers? Because you have a lot of data. What are you really seeing right now between the dealers that are doing really well versus the ones that are struggling a little bit?
Yeah, jumping right into it, I see. Actually, J.D. Power came out earlier this year and talked about, dealers under some stress, a decrease of profitability of estimated 12%, which is like close to $4 billion in the industry. So a lot of dealers are paying pretty close attention to that. I think the ones that are winning or the ones that are going to win this year are the ones that choose what they cut from an expense perspective wisely. Oftentimes, marketing budgets can be the first things to go. Mm-hmm. And if you're just, cutting across the board, you could be cutting something that's really working for you. So the ones that are going to gain market share this year are the ones that are going to cut wisely.
Yeah, I mean, that is something that you hear, like, okay, we're going to cut 20% of the budget for everything, right?
Yeah. Brilliant. Yes, You're cutting off your nose to spite your face oftentimes when that happens, for sure.
Well, data is kind of going to be the theme of what we talk about today. So I have another data question.
It's the theme of what I talk about every day of every week of every year.
Awesome. Then you're ready. So let's talk about attribution. Attribution is something that everybody knows they need to pay attention to. Maybe they don't pay enough attention to. What are some of the misconceptions that you educate dealers about, surrounding attribution?
Yeah, I think the biggest one is that there are lots of dealers out there still that are trying to hold their vendors accountable or understand what works by looking in the wrong places. They're looking at leads and seeing their vendors that are supplying and producing and performing and sending them leads. They're measuring then their vendors on a cost per lead basis. Right? And less than 5% of website traffic converts to a lead. It doesn't mean that consumers aren't shopping. They're shopping more than they've ever shopped. The problem is they're not filling out forms. They don't want to fill out forms. They don't want to submit leads. They don't want to be harassed, right? By providing their cell phone number or texting. So they're doing their homework now more than they've ever done their homework. They're just not submitting leads.
Well, I mean, we've kind of like really put up a smoke screen between what you should be doing and what you could be doing. Let's go back to the cut. If dealers do want to cut budget, how would they even know where to start? How does that work?
Yeah, it's my advice is start somewhere, right? You just have to begin. Typically, if you're not though measuring the right things, you don't know what to cut, right? Yeah. And so, what Clairvoy does that's a little bit, I think, different than everybody else is we're measuring everything to the sale. So we're tying your sales to all of the digital touch points that the consumer took before they bought the car, and just providing the data. We're not telling you, here's what you have to cut or here's what you should cut. We're saying, here are the people that buy cars from you, and here are all the things that they did in their consumer purchase journey before they bought that car. And if you're spending money with a vendor who's not showing up in that click trail journey, you might want to think twice about that for sure.
When you look at that click trail journey, how many, I'm sure it's some people it's 1 and some people it's 400, but if you had to pick like a kind of an average, how many clicks are in that journey normally?
Well, first of all, it's all over the board. There aren't many ones, I will tell you that. But we look back 90 days from the date of sale, 90 days. And then we average about 60 touch points. Wow. And it's about, like 62 days is what we see. So consumers are shopping. They're doing lots of online homework, right? They're doing a lot of research. And you might see them show up as a lead. You might, as one of the things that they do. The biggest challenge that we see dealers are they're kind of giving up on those leads. If those leads don't turn into sales in a week, a lot of dealers give up on those leads. And that's a mistake because it takes a couple months for consumers to actually buy the car.
When you're looking at all that shopper data, because you have access to a lot of shopper data, like what are some of the things that you see that maybe dealers don't realize?
Yeah, I mean, one of the benefits of Clairvoy is that we have a first-party tracking cookie sitting on every marketplace listing site in North America. So we're tracking 200 million shopper sessions every month, 1.4 billion page views, VDP views every single month. We have access to that data, and really our dealers have access to that data. So they can see the shopping activity that happens on those sites instead of being limited to only seeing what's happening on their site and what's happening in their CRM. They can see the people that bought cars from them and then all of the different things that consumer did before they bought a car.
Well, I mean, let's talk to me about some of the sites. I mean, like so if a person has an average of 60 steps in their path, to buying a car, like what are some of the places that maybe you wouldn't expect to see that they're going?
Well, I think, because our tag sits on the dealer websites as well as the parent website of that dealer group, typically, and cross-family shopping that happens within the group is pretty amazing to be able to see that too, where a dealer might run, let's say, a digital campaign, paid search campaign, for Honda, and it drives a click, an activity, and then that consumer begins to research cars, but they might ultimately buy from the sister store across the street because they chose a different make, a different model. But it doesn't mean the campaign that they were initially running didn't turn that consumer into an actual shopper, which is, I think, enlightening to a lot of dealers.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I mean, most of the time you might fall in love with a car and you're like, that's the one I'm getting, but a lot of times you're considering 2 or 3 different vehicles, and it doesn't mean that your marketing didn't work if you happen to not sell that new car. I mean,
absolutely. I mean, really, if you think about just how, consumer behavior, right? There are a myriad of reasons why a consumer doesn't buy the car that maybe they were looking at online or maybe they thought they were going to buy. They show up to the dealership and they choose a different make, a different model. Maybe they move from used to new. There's a lot of different things that happen on the showroom and in the store that help drive that consumer into the perfect car for them. And it's not always what they started shopping for, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of common that when people go into the dealership, they've got their heart set on this particular car, and very frequently they don't only leave with a different trim level; they leave with an entirely different car, and it could be affordability, it could be whatever their credit worthiness is, it could be a lot, or they just walk in and they fall in love.
Yeah, absolutely, happens every day. I mean, if you just think back to your own consumer, behavior over the years of your buying your own cars, that's true.
Yep. Oh, I mean, my wife recently, she was going in to buy, a CRV or a Passport. We go into the Honda dealership and there's the hybrid Accord Touring, just beautiful. And she says, I want that one. I want that one. Yeah. And that's what she got.
Happens every day. That's for sure.
So it doesn't mean the CRV advertising didn't work.
Correct.
Because it got her in the showroom.
Correct.
Right?
Yep. Absolutely. That's correct.
Well, let's stay on click trail data for a little bit.
Okay.
As far as click trail data, because again, you see so much data, what are some other things that are a little surprising that you see?
I think everybody's pretty focused on AI search right now. It's growing exponentially. It's still a very small number in the scheme of things, right? But because of its exponential growth, we're paying very close attention to it. And we're planning on coming out with a white paper later in the year talking about what we see.
Well, I mean, it's a whole different experience for search. I mean, like in the old days, you might type in Honda Accord. Now you might type in, I have 2 kids, they play sports, I commute to work 40 minutes, and I'm looking for a 4-door sedan, and my budget is this. And you could just tell it all of those things, and it's going to suggest vehicles.
Yeah, it's a personal shopper for you, really.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing. And I think we're also just scratching the surface of what it's going to become. So I think all eyes are on it for sure, and you got to pay attention to it. But again, it's like anything else, we want to measure it, and you can't optimize and improve the things that you don't measure. So we think we're in a pretty good spot. We've got a ton of data, right? Access to a ton of information. I think dealers beginning to understand the process, right, as that evolves, are going to be investing time, effort, resources into improving that process for the consumer and making sure that they show up for those quote unquote, personal shoppers that AI is really becoming for the consumer.
Yeah, I think with AI search that nobody knows where it's going. But it's definitely coming, right? And it's, 25 years ago there were dealers that thought, I don't need a website. I don't think that there's anything you can do to avoid getting involved with AI search. And I think the earlier you get in, the better, right? You don't want your first rep to be the one that matters the most. You want to start now and learn.
It's coming like a freight train. Like, it will be the most impactful thing I think that we see maybe in our lifetime. That's how powerful it is.
Yeah, I think it's as big as the Industrial Revolution. That's for sure.
Yeah.
It's gonna change, everything. It's gonna change how you buy things, how you sell things, how you make things. You got to get on board.
It absolutely is. At the end of the day, though, consumers are still going to want to buy cars, right? There's an emotional piece to them buying a car. Mm-hmm. It's not only factual information, right? So a dealer needs to be staying in front of the trends that are happening and putting not only their, they need to be putting their inventory and their brand in front of the consumers anywhere the consumer is shopping.
Let's shift gears and talk about streaming television. And streaming television that you can measure. Let's talk about attribution. What does a partnership like Comcast mean to a dealership?
Yeah, I think it's eye-opening, really. We're talking about linear television. We're talking about streaming television. We're talking about addressable linear targeting specific houses. Television has changed pretty drastically in the last 5 to 10 years, right? But video, with the right message in the right car and all of that means a ton to the consumer still. It still has a great impact. But being able to measure, that's a big change. When we started Clairvoy back, we probably launched TV analytics in 2014. TV analytics was our attempt to start measuring television, right? We wanted to see what website visits were driven by television commercials because it was the Wild West. People were blindly spending money on TV, big chunks of their budget on TV, and had no idea what worked. And so really that was the problem that Clairvoy started solving and trying to solve, right? And when you do that, it was based off probabilistic matching versus deterministic. Probabilistic matching, you had to be in the right DMA, you had to be in the right cable zone, you had to be, we were looking at time series correlation. We think that this commercial drove this behavior or this traffic to your website, but it was still probabilistic in matching. Now we're talking about something completely different. This is 100% deterministic, right? We know the household, we know when that consumer viewed that commercial, and then we know the shopping behaviors before they viewed that commercial and the shopping behaviors that happened after they saw that commercial. So wow. It's really amazing to be able to see, somebody is not in market, they're not shopping on any of the marketplaces, they're not shopping on the dealer's website, they get served an ad and they grab their phone that's sitting on their lap already, watching television, and they go online and sometimes they go to the dealership, the car dealership website, oftentimes they don't. Oftentimes that commercial will drive that person to go to, one of the marketplace sites that they're more familiar with so that they can do comparison shopping. Last year, we came out with a white paper study talking about kind of a marketplace first, society. Just think of COVID and what Amazon has done and provided, right? You see a commercial for something that you are interested in, you like, you don't go to that website typically. You'll go shop at wherever you're comfortable shopping. Mm-hmm. And if you're an Amazon Prime member and you're very comfortable with Amazon, you probably go there first. And it's not that different in auto. The problem is, in Amazon, you can see the purchase funnel all the way to the online purchase. In automotive, you still have to connect the dots of the offline purchase of a vehicle to the online activity that led up to that purchase. And that's what we do.
I want to ask you about some of your highest performing dealers. Like some of your highest performing dealers, how are they thinking about marketing and attribution differently than they were, say, 5 years ago?
Well, if you think about it this way, there isn't a dealer group out there that has a line item in their budget for measurement, right?
True.
That's a challenge for us, but it's really a challenge for the dealers. I think the ones that are more progressive and really leaning in on measurement, with us is we're seeing that become a part of their budgeting, right? It's not a, hey, I want to do this one time for 6 months and evaluate all my vendors. It's no, I want to create an entire baseline of what's working for me. And then once I've done that, I want to begin to optimize campaigns based off of sales performance, right? So once it becomes a part of your vernacular, part of everything that you do inside of your business, you're constantly measuring and optimizing, getting better. That's a piece. And oh, by the way, there are how many new businesses popping up every year, they're going after the dealer's attention to get them to try and use their product. Well, that's great to try and use their product, but you need a backdrop in which to measure that whoever you're going to try, whatever vendor you want to work with, you need to have a backdrop, in which to measure them. So I think that the dealers that make measurement and optimization a constant part of their business operations, those are the ones that are seeing the biggest impact and growing the fastest.
That's something that in our business we do a lot. A lot of people will say, what's the best way to reach dealers? Well, it may be different for you than it is for him versus her over here. So you try a bunch of things and you measure them, right? But if you're not measuring, how do you know? Like, I want to double my budget. Well, what double my sales? Couldn't tell you. Like, if you don't measure, how do you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And it probably isn't going to double your sales. Let's be sure about that. But understanding, what is working is one thing. But being able to say, okay, now how do I improve upon that? How do I make that better? I use the McGovern Auto Group. And Chris Benvey from the McGovern Auto Group spoke about this. When we started working with them, they had 8 stores. We helped them cut $200,000 monthly budget.
Holy moly.
When we first started working with them. It's like $2.4 million a year. They had 8 stores. Now they have like 50 stores or something. They still work with us every single month. We really helped grow their business. And because when you cut wasted ad spend, you can then invest dollars in what's actually, helping you sell cars.
Yeah.
And so that's just a big change in thought. And I think it's really helping our best dealers out there.
It sounds like they had a really leaky boat and you plugged the leaks, which...
A lot of dealers do. This is not an isolated problem in our industry, right? Dealers spend a lot of money every single month on all of their vendors. And until you can have an independent company that can help you understand what's working and what's not working, has no skin in the game, right? Once you have somebody like that can help you navigate those waters, I think that's a big need, and that's the void we're trying to fill in the industry.
Well, yeah, let's talk about that, because you don't sell media. So how does that change the conversation that you would have with a dealer versus maybe all of the other partners that they have that do sell media?
Yeah, it's funny. We always say dealers have ADD, another damn dashboard. That's what that stands for. There are a lot of great vendors out there, but they all are kind of bringing in their own, here's what I did for you last month, right? Here is my performance. Here is my dashboard. It's people grading their own homework. There's a lot of great vendors out there too. But I think a dealer needs to be able to sit back and say, thanks for bringing this in, but I have an independent partner that can look at all of the data and show me everything that's happening to help them better understand what works and what doesn't.
Well, I'd like to finish with one final question. If you could give the dealers that are watching this one piece of advice to make the second half of 2026 better, what would it be?
Well, you have to start somewhere. That's first, I think, and foremost. We'd love for you to start with us, but you have to start somewhere. But I would say my number one piece of advice, and I say this all the time, whenever asked. Choose to do business with vendors that want to be transparent and want to get better with better data. Dealers, they are out there. Choose to do business with those vendors. Because as an industry, if we're all working toward that goal to help our dealers with transparency and optimization, we're all going to win.
That's a great place to end, Chris. I really appreciate you coming in.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yes, and thank you for taking the time to join us for this AutoSuccess Executive Spotlight. I'm your host, Brian Ankney. Today our guest has been Chris Kerr from Clairvoy. We hope to see you again on a future episode. This one's Over the Curb and Burning Gas.